6 News at noon continues.
Well, we're joined now from Austin by our governor, Greg Abbott. And as always, Governor, we want to welcome you and say thanks so much for your time. As you know, the number of new daily COVID-19 cases here in Nueces County has nearly doubled already this week. And in fact, researchers with Texas A&M Corpus Christi say that we've already eclipsed Dallas and San Antonio in the number of new cases per day per capita. Now, with that in mind, let me begin by asking, what are state health officials doing to combat the surge specifically here in South Texas?
I'll answer that, but let me first take up the first point that you made, because your audience needs to know this. And that is, as you see cases of COVID-19 increase in Nueces County, we also see statewide there's going to be an all-time record set today in the number of people testing positive of over 5,000. My point in making that, as well as letting your audience know that the positivity rate has increased and hospitalizations are increasing, there still remain some people in Nueces County, as well as in the entire region, who seem to think that COVID-19 is not a challenge. People need to recognize this is a very swift spreading virus for which there is no treatment. And as a result, people do need to take this very serious. One of the challenges that we're dealing with is what you pointed out, and that is there are more people going to the hospital. What I have is there are 38 people who are hospitalized in Corpus Christi for COVID-19. One thing about it, and that is that there still remain 300 beds available. That said, we are working with hospitals in the Nueces County region, as well as the other regions around the state of Texas, to ensure that they are setting aside sufficient beds for anybody who tests positive. But let me go back. Our first goal is to work on strategies to reduce people testing positive so we can keep those people out of hospitals in the first place.
Now, let me ask you this. The spike in COVID-19 cases, and I think you even may have referenced this yesterday, the spike that we're seeing seems to coincide with people getting out for the Memorial Day holiday. We've got July 4th coming up, and it's a good bet a lot of tourists are headed to the coastal bend from maybe some of those hot spots in the state. As you talked about, you consider both doctors and data. Might there be wisdom in adding travel restrictions before then?
Well, what we're looking at are ways of addressing crowds that could be gathering for the 4th of July. There is an executive order already in place giving local authorities to put restrictions on crowd gatherings of more than 500. We are reevaluating that right now to make sure that local officials have even greater control as we're coming up on 4th of July to make sure that they will be able to establish standards that can prevent the spread of COVID-19. Kind of going back to what you said, we did see an increase after Memorial Day. We saw an increase in the early part of June. We need to make sure that we do have the flexibility to reduce crowds in ways that will reduce the spread of COVID-19.
So let me go back and just reiterate here, then local officials do have a great deal of flexibility when it comes to the July 4th gatherings.
Yes, they do have flexibility with regard to 4th of July gatherings. And one thing that we're looking at right now is providing them even more flexibility, understanding that whether it be authorities in Nueces County or some other counties, they're getting concerned about the spread. We want to make sure they have greater flexibility to control that spread.
All right. We're, of course, in a different place than we were back at the beginning of May when Texas really began to reopen. And I've got to say, I've noticed you wearing a mask perhaps more often. Maybe I've just noticed it more often. And we've even had several counties here start to require them. Are there any legal concerns for businesses who don't want to turn folks away who don't wear masks, especially if they're struggling to try to rebound?
Well, one thing that I've learned in my discussions with businesses, and that is when I explain to them that the primary way that they will be able to keep their businesses open is by having people wear masks, they realize they would rather have customers in masks than having no customers at all. And so if we are unable to contain the spiraling spread of COVID-19, there will be more onerous requirements put on businesses, including even considering having to ratchet back on the expansion of opening businesses in Texas. That's the last thing that either I or those businesses want to do. So the best thing that we can all do is work on continuing to open up businesses, but do so in ways that use safe practices that include wearing a mask.
All right, Governor, let me ask you this very quickly. When it comes to reopening schools, you have said that school districts need to do what's best for their students. Does that include kids not being on campus in the fall?
So 2 standards, and then to answer your question. 1 is the health and safety students must be first. 2, there must be a level of flexibility built into the school system. That flexibility will ensure distance learning from home by students through strategies that have been perfected after what schools went through at the end of the last school year.
All right, Governor, we're going to have to end it there for now. Stay safe, and we look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Sounds good. Thank you. Be safe.
All right.